Take any day and be alive in it. Live a day of it and see. And see. You know, and maybe I'm not alone in this one. Aging has played some very strange tricks on me. On the one hand, getting older has taught me about the preciousness of life. Seeing how fast it goes raising our children. Or getting that my body and mind simply can't do what they once were able to do. People I love have died or are in their last chapter of life right now. Age has shown me that I don't have time to waste. So I better start living. But here's the strange bit about aging. Right alongside this good, hard-earned wisdom is that thing we tend to lose with age, which is the way that as a child or a young person, where we knew how to really give ourselves fully to life, with such a beautiful spirit of play and wonder and spontaneity and surrender, that experience, that eating up of life, right? The kids and youth, they got it. We tend to kind of lose this as we get older, and for good reasons. But it's, to me, a key stage in our actualization to reach a certain point in life where the recovery and integration of all that, it becomes an urgent errand, lest we become too serious or too controlled or too scared or too rigid. Nothing like cutting off the sunlight of the Spirit than to become too grown up. I was brave when I was young. That's something I'm working to integrate back into my life. She was brave. And I had a lovely wildness about me when I was a teenager and emerging adult. It was freeing to feel that way in the world. And I'm working to recover some of those parts in me too, because they're still there. And I could also be really stupid. And maybe bravery and wildness are the willingness to ride life's waves fully. Maybe it requires a bit of stupidity. Case in point, when Lindsay Fisher told 16-year-old Sophia that the Grateful Dead were playing a show in Las Vegas, Nevada, just a quick 4 or 5 hour drive through Death Valley from Los Angeles, and that all we needed was gas and food money and that the rest would quote unquote take care of itself. What else was there to say but yes? And when do we leave? I didn't at the time know much of anything about the Grateful Dead. I don't think I knew many of their songs at all. What I did know was that they had this following. People traveling from place to place, selling their wares in the parking lot outside the venues to make just enough to get them to the next show and the next show and the next. And I remember myself feeling so mystified by this idea that it was possible to live like this, happily, no less. Those deadheads wowed me. So I knew I had to go see this all for myself, damn the risks or even basic forethought. And so we did that thing that wild, somewhat stupid teenagers in the early 1990s did. My parents were told that I was sleeping at Lindsay's, and Lindsay's parents were told that she was sleeping at my place, and we pooled our crumpled little dollar bills up, gas money, threw some snacks in the back, and hit the road in my dingy little Honda Civic. And we were about an hour into the Mojave Desert, driving on that 2-lane Route 190, when I turned to Lindsay and said, "Wait a minute, how are we going to see the show if we don't even have tickets?" To which Lindsay quickly responded, "Oh, we don't need tickets. We need miracles." So, in Grateful Dead culture, a miracle happens when you arrive at a show, ticketless, penniless, and in need, and you walk around the parking lot, which doubles as a kind of Renaissance fair before the concert begins, so many wares being sold and bought and traded, with one finger held up like this, and you said to everyone who you pass by, "I need a miracle. I need a miracle. I need a miracle." And at some point, a perfect stranger might, without asking any questions and with full trust in this needy stranger's good intentions, they would gift you a ticket. Usually this came with this big hug and enjoy the show and I love you too. And then they just would magically disappear and vanish. And this is what happened to us. The legend was true. I was only able to attend a handful more Grateful Dead shows before their lead singer, Jerry Garcia, died a few years later. But one of my Grateful Dead claims to fame was that I was the recipient of a miracle every time and never bought a ticket. No, it was not until decades later that I realized this free exchange of kindness and trust and generosity and this magical feeling of belonging to one another, united by a larger, noble purpose, but perfect strangers saying "I love you" to one another and meaning it, was my first experience of beloved community. And dare I say church. Yeah. And it started with the people before any show inside began. It started with the people, and I've devoted my life to this kind of church ever since. Now, as a contemplative, I place great value and devote a lot of time to my personal prayer practices. It might surprise you to know that I am an introvert that needs to retreat consistently so that I can renew myself in solitary quiet. I need that. I need it like air. And this offers me grounding in myself and connects me to something more, which I often call God. But I also need to be with people, large groups at times, who are gathered with the hope of being moved and opened by something and longing to be fully alive together. This also connects me to God and returns me to myself, but in a different way. And I need that too, like I need air. The music at that Dead show was soul-lifting, yes. But when I think about what it was that was really happening in that open Las Vegas arena, hot sun beating down on us with water hoses being sprayed and keeping us cool, heart-opening music, right, that had us holding our hands up like this, right? Dancing and singing, hugging and laughing and crying too. That what was happening there, And what I was experiencing really for the first time in my very young life was what happens when it isn't solely about a personal moment of transcendence. It was, but mainly about a shared one. The we was making it, it happen. The we. French sociologist Émile Durkheim, in 1912, he called this it, the whoa, collective effervescence, which he coined when he was investigating the magic, he said, the magic he witnessed during religious ceremonies for his book, The Elementary Forms of the Religious Life. And he explained that collective effervescence happens when we experience a feeling of deep connection with others, communal emotion, he said, and the sensation of sacredness that happens when we humans gather together, open to discovering and feeling something more. I would add that there is a corporal element about this, meaning one's whole body must take part right alongside others' whole bodies. And a corporal religious experience doesn't just mean dancing or being carried by a crowd overhead. What's that called? Crowd surfing? Not just that. It simply means inhabiting one's body enough so that you can let it feel what it wants to feel and let it be moved by it. Our transcendentalist forebearers wrote and spoke about this beautifully in the late 19th century. What a time to be somewhat disembodied, right? Ralph Waldo Emerson called it the transparent eyeball, where all egotism, all self-consciousness vanishes. Individual identity disappears, he says, and you are able to perceive, absorb, and connect with the big something out there. He wrote, I see all. That's what it feels like. The currents of the universal being circulate through me. I am part or particle of God. I am the lover of uncontained and immortal beauty. Emerson wrote that. Yes, Emerson. Interestingly, he also wrote that this kind of spiritual awakening requires one to, quote, cast off their years and to be a perpetual youth. Theodore Parker described religion's true essence as having nothing whatever to do with rigid creeds, dogmas, or ecclesiastical structures, and only to do with a lived, embodied experience of God and the exchange of divine humanity. Henry David Thoreau, he went to those woods not just to be alone, but to learn how to, in his words, live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to know it by experience and be able to give a true account of it. As much as I was just a punk kid looking to say yes to most anything, even if it was a stupid and even terrible, dangerous idea, I was also seeking for something really important. I wanted to perceive and absorb and connect with a big something, and to feel it circulate through me in some way, to experience it and be able to give a true account of it. I did. And that is what I found at that packed arena that day, a community of people who were there to be awakened to the uncontained beauty of being alive and together. What a thing. And this was the undeniable sermon that the Grateful Dead preached through song for the 30 years they toured, 2,300 shows, averaging 70 a year. What a glorious revival we who pilgrimed there experienced. Any snaps for those who ever went? All right, okay. I told you I'm in the right place. Where for one day we were shown the light, given some glorious things to talk about beside the rising tide, handed a box of rain to ease our pain so that love could see us through. Those are sermons I still want to hear, and I still need to hear. You know, Jerry Garcia was once asked what he thought about the Grateful Dead's following, to which he warned against the dangers of idolatry and icons. And he spoke about a larger consciousness at play. Guy wrote about that in the music notes in your order of service. We're in sync. He spoke about a larger consciousness at play. The shared experience, he said, between musician and those gathered was what the following was. Their transforming, co-creating principle. Yeah. I think he would have loved the idea of collective effervescence. And this happens here too. Maybe you have felt it here before, collective effervescence. It's not just me serving it up to you, or Guy playing it for you, or our choir singing it to you, or our worship associate reading it for you, nor is it just because you are wonderful you and here. It's the shared experience. And the hope and the longing and the willingness to be transformed that creates and makes and remakes the bubbles, right? And it happens in other places too. I'm sure you've experienced it at other musical festivals, protests, right? Yeah, protests, where life feels big and the boundaries of one mind blurs into the many, and you suddenly realize, I have a whole body, and I'm moving with all that feels as one. What a thing to feel those moments of aliveness with people. And as Jerry sang, it can even, in retrospect, feel like a dream, dreamt one afternoon long ago. What was that thing that just happened? My friends, my spiritual companions and seekers, in the coming weeks, be alive. Try to be a bit more awake than you already are, or to come awake if you have felt asleep. Put that in your prayer. And then look for it. If you need inspiration, go outside. For the earth is expressing her coming alive and awake all around us right now. View the trees as concert goers with arms stretched up, swaying to the music, birds singing along in her branches. See the shoots emerging, not alone, but together. Know yourself to be caught up in the co-creation and dance of it all, for you are. And call upon, for the love of all things, call upon your inner kids and youth to help you to see things as if for the first time and be those transparent eyeballs, but with a bit of hard-earned wisdom too. I want to close by listening to Frederick Buechner's profound words again, and I hope that you will hold them close in your hearts in the coming days. Before I do this, it is good to lift up thanks for all that is life. It's so precious I could weep at times. And to those who remind us all about how to live it well and live it fully, thank you. And thank you, Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead, and to my deadheads, thank you. I don't want to dream this day out. I want to live this day out. I want to live this day out as though it were the first day of my life, because that is, of course, what it is. Who knows whether there is life on any other planet anywhere else in the universe, but there is life on this planet. And what is life like? Think of not knowing what life is, and then finding out. A book, suddenly learning how to read, a rock jutting out into the sea, suddenly knowing the thump and splatter of the waves, the taste of salt. You are alive. It needn't have been so. It wasn't so once, and it will not be so forever. But it is so now. And what is it like to be alive in this maybe one place of all places anywhere where life is? Live a day of it and see. Take any day and be alive in it. Nobody claims that it will be entirely painless, but no matter. It is your birthday, and there are many presents to open. The world is to open. And so I say to you, blessed be, and amen.